Speak when you are angry, and you'll make the best speech you'll ever regret. Ambrose Bierce. Have you ever felt that heat rising in your chest, that sudden tension behind your eyes when someone cuts you off in traffic, dismisses your idea, or says something unfair? Anger is quick, it's loud, it wants to explode, to take the wheel and steer. Now picture this. You're in a meeting. Your colleague interrupts you. Again. The familiar surge begins. But instead of snapping back, you pause, you breathe, you look at them, and simply say, "Please let me finish." Calm, controlled, unshaken. That moment, that pause, is power. Anger wants you to react. But Stoicism teaches us, you are not your first impulse. The Stoics knew that anger isn't evil, but how we respond to it determines who we are. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? What matters most is what you choose to do with the fire." Because here's the truth. No one is immune to anger. Not even the wisest. But the wise build space between the flame and the action. They learn to delay, to digest, to decide with intention. Emotional self-control doesn't mean suppressing how you feel. It means understanding that you have a choice. Not everything needs a reaction. In fact, silence, stillness, and thoughtful restraint often say more than any sharp words ever could. So how do you start? Begin by noticing the triggers. Become curious about what stirs that fire in you. Is it disrespect? Is it injustice? Is it insecurity? Then, in that moment of awareness, breathe. Give yourself even 5 seconds, because those 5 seconds can save a relationship, a reputation, or even your peace of mind. Remember, you can't always control what happens, but you can always control the story you write with your reaction. Let others burn with rage. Let others lose control. You will be the calm in the storm. That's the kind of presence people don't forget. He who angers you conquers you. Elizabeth Kenny. Anger often feels like it comes from them, that rude stranger, that harsh word, that betrayal. But what if I told you that anger doesn't begin out there? It begins inside. Imagine this. A father is teaching his son to ride a bike. The boy falls, cries, and says he wants to stop. The father, already carrying a long day of frustration, yells, "Stop whining, be a man!" But was he really angry at the child, or at something unresolved within himself? Anger is often a mirror. It reflects not just what's happening, but how we interpret what's happening. The Stoics taught us to examine the lens, not just the trigger. Epictetus wrote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." And here's the insight. What we call anger is often pain wearing armor. It could be the sting of feeling disrespected, the ache of feeling unseen, or the fear of being out of control. So instead of lashing out, look in. Ask yourself, why did that moment hurt so much? What value, belief, or wound did it touch? Self-awareness disarms anger. When you begin to understand your emotional patterns, you start responding with insight, not instinct. This isn't easy work, but it's transformational. You stop being a slave to your emotions. You become their master. You shift from blaming to understanding, from reacting to choosing. And in that shift, something powerful emerges. Not weakness, but quiet strength. Because true emotional self-control isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the wisdom to see that the fight outside of you is often just a shadow of a battle within. And when you learn to meet yourself with honesty instead of judgment, anger loses its grip and you begin to walk lighter. If a person gave away your body to some passerby, you'd be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along and insults you, and you don't seem to mind. Epictetus. There's something almost sacred about a person who stays calm when others erupt. Imagine a bustling kitchen. A young chef drops a plate. The head chef storms over, voice raised, temper flaring. Everyone freezes. But the young chef, he calmly picks up the pieces, says, "I'll clean this up," and gets back to work. No eye rolling, no panic, just presence. That's stillness. And in moments of conflict, stillness is not passivity, it's power under control. Anger is quick to scream, but it takes strength to stay still, to not let another's chaos become your own. Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." Moments of anger, yours or someone else's, are opportunities. opportunities to prove yourself, to show restraint, to model dignity, to respond, not to retaliate. But here's where it gets deeper. When you can remain still in the face of provocation, people begin to trust you. You become an anchor in turbulent waters, someone whose presence calms the room, not escalates it. To cultivate this stillness, start by practicing pause. When you feel the urge to snap, pause. Take a breath. Ask, what outcome do I really want? Because anger often feels urgent, but urgency is rarely wise. Let your response be measured, not emotional. Let your actions align with your values, not your mood. Stillness isn't weakness. It's the mature understanding that not every battle needs your sword. Some just need your silence. And when you master that, you become unshakable. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl. Anger is often a first thought, an automatic spark, but your life is shaped by the second thought. Picture this. You receive a text message, short, cold, and full of assumptions. Your heart races, your thumbs itch to reply. The first thought, defend, attack, explain. But you wait, you reread it an hour later, and something changes. The second thought says, maybe they're having a hard day. Maybe I should ask instead of assume. And just like that, everything shifts. Stoicism isn't about denying anger. It's about not being owned by it. It's about living from that second space, that pause where wisdom waits. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most people live in their reactions. Few live in their responses. That's why self-control feels rare, because it is. Choosing the second thought means choosing growth. It means being guided by intentionality, not ego. It might sound simple, but in practice, it's a daily discipline. So start small. When the next spark of anger comes, try this. Don't send the first draft of that message. Don't say the first sentence that comes to mind. Ask, what would my wiser self say in 1 hour? That's the second thought. The version of you who's not trying to win the moment, but trying to win yourself. And in that choice, you don't just calm the fire. You become the person who carries peace into the room. No man is free who is not master of himself. Socrates. We all want peace, but few realize we become what we practice. If you practice reactivity, impatience, blame, you become the storm. But if you practice pause, awareness, restraint, you become the calm within the storm. Imagine a crowded train. Someone bumps into you hard, doesn't apologize. You turn. For a split second, your face tenses, your breath shortens. But you choose to let it go. Not because you're weak, not because they deserved it, but because you deserved your peace more than they deserved your reaction. That's emotional self-control. And that's what Stoicism is really about, protecting your inner world, no matter the noise around you. You see, anger tempts us to prove something, but the wise don't need to prove. They need only to choose. Choose dignity over drama, stillness over shouting, self-respect over temporary satisfaction. When you live this way, people notice. They may not say it aloud, but they feel safer around you. They trust your silence more than they trust others' volume. And more than anything, you start trusting yourself. That is true strength, not the kind that clenches fists, but the kind that opens the hand and says, I choose peace, even here, especially here. You don't need to conquer others. You only need to conquer the urge to betray your values in a moment of heat, because that's the real win. So ask yourself, when the moment comes, who will I be? Not perfect, not emotionless, but present, intentional, grounded. In the end, the most attractive kind of power is not loud. It's not flashy. It's the quiet control of someone who has nothing to prove and everything to protect, beginning with their own peace. Be that person. Let others rage. You be the one who brings the room back to center.